Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogrammed Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. And Chantal Donnelly, physical therapist and author of Settled, How to Find Calm in a Stress-Inducing World. We follow our guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Hello and welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast. I am Dr. Supatra Tovar.
And I am Chantal Donnelly.
We are super excited to have Midlife Whisperer Dr. Ellen Albertson with us today. Hi, Dr. Ellen, how are you?
I am great. I'm so excited to talk with y'all.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. I'm going to read a little bit about Dr. Ellen, and then we're going to get right into our questions. Dr. Ellen and I have, our backgrounds are very, very similar. She's one of the only other psychologist, registered dietitian that I know in this country. She's also a national board certified health and wellness coach. She's also a Reiki master and mindful self-compassion teacher. She is known as the Midlife Whisperer. She helps women raise their vibration so that they have the energy, confidence, and clarity to make their next chapter their best chapter. She's a best-selling, award-winning author, inspirational speaker, and expert on women's well-being. She has also appeared on Extra, the Food Network, NBC World News, and she's also been quoted in Psychology Today, Eating Well, and USA Today. She has written 5 books and articles for Self, Better Homes and Gardens, and Good Housekeeping. Her latest book is Rock Your Midlife, 7 Steps to Transform Yourself and Make Your Next Chapter the Best Chapter. She brings over 25 years of counseling, coaching, and healing experience to her holistic practice and transformational work. She lives on the Champlain Islands of Vermont with her high-tech raw food loving partner Ken and her tree climbing border collie Rosie. She also has a home in Costa Rica, which we are all very jealous about. She is also a breast cancer survivor. She was diagnosed in 2022 and finished her treatment in mid-2023. We're so glad you're healed, Dr. Ellen, and you're with us today.
Me too, and I'm going to bring you guys a little bit of Pura Vida, which is what we talk about in Costa Rica. It's just this feeling like, life is good.
Yes, excellent.
Love that. You are known as the Midlife Whisperer.
Shh.
I have to say, as a woman who's 55, I think I need a little whispering to my midlife screaming personally. So I'm really glad to talk to you. I'm very excited about this conversation. Wondering how you got inspired to help women in their midlife. And also you mentioned that you help women raise their vibrations. Can you explain what that means and how that all came about?
Sure. Well, midlife women actually found me. So when I was a little old dietitian 30 years ago, everybody coming to me, they were all midlife women. I was an outpatient dietitian. And let's face it, if you haven't been taking care of your body, that's when your body says, hello, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, weight goes up, don't feel like myself, brain fog, insomnia. And that was 30 years ago. Like nobody talked about menopause. Like I don't even remember my mom even mentioning it, right? So all of these women were coming to me with their doctors would send them and say, go see the dietitian. And that's sort of how I started working with midlife women. The only problem was, and I don't know if Dr. Tovar, you resonate with this, I did not have the skills to help people to make behavior change. I was like, okay, eat this, don't eat this. And way back when I became a dietitian, the science was really different, right? We were all not eating any fat and sugar was okay. Hello. But I didn't have the skills. So gradually over time, I spent a lot of time working in the media. My ex-husband and I were the cooking couple in the 90s. So I was a celebrity chef. But then I went back and I became a personal personal fitness trainer. And then I went on to become a board certified health and wellness coach and a psychologist. And so really, it's been 30 years of learning more of the science and learning more of the skills of how do I get people to make changes. And that was the big pivotal point, from the place of self-love, not self-loathing. That was another thing, as I learned as a dietitian. It's like everybody should eat less, move more, kill yourself at the gym, go on these starvation diets. And of course, nothing that never worked, because it's not sustainable. It's not the way the body works. And so I really had to do a big 180 in terms of my whole nutrition philosophy, my whole, philosophy of how I work with people. And the pivotal point for me was discovering self-compassion. So I was fortunate enough, when I was getting my PhD, my dissertation, I wanted to help women with negative body image. I realized the media does not do us any favors. It tells us that we have to be thin and young to be attractive. And the most important thing about us is our looks. And if we're not those things, we don't feel good about ourselves. And so we go on these cockamamie diets, kill ourselves at the gym, and then we starve ourselves, and then we binge, and it goes on and on. And I was like, whoa, this is not good. So I actually developed an intervention using self-compassion. We took a group of women. I recruited about 500 women. Half of them listened to meditations that were self-compassion meditations, and half of them were controls. And what my research showed is that body shame, body dissatisfaction, and body self-worth based on appearance went down, and body appreciation went up as women learned self-compassion and practice. So that was, in a nutshell, how I've kind of worked with midlife women. That, of course, went through midlife myself and went through empty nest, divorce, blindness, breast cancer, the whole 9 yards, really the caterpillar to the butterfly thing. And now I'm having the time of my life. So I feel like I've become my avatar, where I'm just having so much fun. I feel so good, which brings us to the energy piece, which is really, my philosophy is so much more about, forget about managing your weight and your food. Let's manage our energy. Yes. You are an energetic being. And so eat to feel good, to be high vibe. It's not just me sort of being woo here. When we look at quantum physics, we really see that all of matter is spinning very, very rapidly. And so are you, and you might be feeling like you're spinning in midlife menopause, but your cells are spinning. You are energy. And so our thoughts, our food, stress, all of these things are impacting our energy levels. So essentially, what I'm trying to help women do is manage their energy. But the interesting thing is, they don't know that's what they need. I think just please help me sleep, help me with the brain fog, help me with the weight loss. But it's like, if we take a step back and we think about, how do I feel good? Because if you're feeling good, your energy is good. How do I increase my capacity, my resilience, which is really about increasing your battery so that you can feel good, do more, be more, have a bigger impact on the world, and just really enjoy your life and be healthy.
Amen. I am with you all the way on that. And I definitely resonate with everything that you went through when you were a dietitian, all the way through what you are doing now. You and I are definitely soul sisters in our journey. And it's so amazing to hear. It's like, just kind of like hearing an echo come back at you and just really loving that. Tell us about Rock Your Midlife, the 7 steps to transform yourself and make your next chapter your best chapter. It has gotten significant attention. I would love you to give us the overview of the 7 steps and how they can transform a woman's midlife experience.
Well, I wrote the book to help more women, first of all, because, I can only coach so many women. And I also wanted to tell my story, having gone through midlife. So let's go over those steps. So the first step is to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, you can't be on your path. You need to know your strengths, your weaknesses, what you like to do, what you love to do as a kid. And so it's so important, because when you don't know yourself, and I think this is a lot of our cases at midlife, it's like we're climbing up this ladder of success. We get to the top of the building, we look around, and we're like, why am I not happy? I did all of the things I was supposed to do. I'm running around trying to please everybody else. I'm doing all of these things that society tells me are going to make me happy. All of this sort of, this patriarchal BS. Our brains think in a certain way that I got to beat myself up. I got to be better, be skinnier, be a better mom, be a better wife, be a better worker. And we get there and we're like, this is not working for me. So what you need to do is really get to know yourself and what really makes you happy. Because when you're happy, you're going to have such a bigger impact on everyone else. You've got to know yourself. And when you know yourself, it's like you're on your path. Like every day that I live, I don't think about, I mean, I guess I think about where I want to be in 4 years, 5 years, all that, long-term planning, but I'm really every day on my path doing what I love to do and helping people and being lit up. So you've got to know yourself. That's the first step. The second
Yes.
step we touched on a little bit, and that's that self-love, self-compassion piece. And I really feel like self-compassion is the practice that you do to amplify the self-love. And it's simply treating yourself like a good friend, being
Yes.
kind to yourself rather than judgmental. And if you're listening for a second, think about if you have a good friend who has been through some kind of difficulty, they felt embarrassed, they've had an argument, a fender bender, or a health crisis. What do you do for your friend, right? What's your tone of voice? What do you do? What's your posture like? Then take a moment and think about what happens with you. When we failed, when we
Yes.
felt inadequate, like, what do we do? Like, you mentioned, like, I got breast cancer, right? And I was like, why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Instead of, oh my God, you poor thing, you just got a breast cancer diagnosis. How can I support you? So we
Right.
learn to be kind to ourselves rather than judgmental. There's an active component in self-compassion. We also learn common humanity, which means that we know that, shit happens. The Buddha got it right. Like when he looked over the wall and he saw people were dying, people were getting sick, people were impoverished, it was like, oh my God, this is the
Yes.
reality, is that, like, being a human being is tough. Then we don't feel so isolated and alone when things go wrong in our lives. And then the third piece is mindfulness. So when something goes wrong, it can be a small thing. You're just having a bad day. You got an email that, or you forgot to balance your checkbook or whatever it is. Somebody gave you the finger on the highway. You guys live in Los Angeles. And it's like, what do I need right
Never
now?
happens.
It never
We
happens,
try not to
right?
go on the highway. We stay in our bubble.
But you ask, like, what do I need right now? And it is a game changer, and it's a practice. So it's something that you do every single day. You think, today I'm going to be my own best friend today. I'm going to work on that. And
I
we
love
think
it.
we need our self-critic. We think we need to beat ourselves up to succeed. But what the research really shows is that when we criticize ourselves, it's very demotivational. We raise cortisol, which of course we know cortisol is bad for you. It creates
Mhm.
inflammation. It shuts us down. It makes us feel like crap. And that whole energy management piece doesn't work for us. But when we're kind to ourselves, we can generate what's called oxytocin, simply even just like a soothing hug or a touch. That actually helps to motivate us. It also helps with things like decreasing our stress and our cortisol levels. It can help you stick
Yeah.
to your diet if you feel like, I got to have that cookie. If you think, what do I really need right now? I don't need a cookie right now. I need a nap. Or maybe I need to get some
Hmm.
fresh air, or maybe I need to, speak to my coach and my therapist or my friend. So those three things, that's a game changer. When you practice self-compassion, you start to love yourself, you stop doing those things that insult your soul. You start doing those
Yes.
things that really attract what's in your highest interest. That's number two. Got to love yourself. Number three is energize yourself. We've kind of touched on this, but briefly, it's diet, movement, stress, and sleep. And, learning
Hmm.
how to manage your energy. So first, diet is simple. It's a whole food, plant-based diet, less processed foods, more plants. Don't eat anything your
Yes.
grandmother would have eaten. Make sure you're staying hydrated. And it's stress management. So learning, like, okay, how do I manage my stress? How do I manage these difficult thoughts that leads to stress? What stress reduction am I doing, whether that's movement, nature, meditation, yoga, whatever that is, because stress is generating cortisol. Cortisol is creating inflammation, and it's shutting down our brains and our bodies. Sleep is so important, particularly at midlife. Like, how many of us are not sleeping well at midlife, right? We've got to get good sleep. So much
Hmm.
of repair happens at sleep. And then movement, exercise and diet, all of these things shouldn't be punitive. It should be doing it because I love and care about myself and I want to feel good. So managing your energy is number three. Number four is reprogramming your brain. So I know that, Supatra, you understand neuroplasticity, which means
Yes.
that no matter your age, you can rewire your brain through your
Hmm.
thoughts, working with your emotions, and also eating the right foods. There is a connection between diet and mental health. So when we
Yep.
have a good diet, our mental health is better. When our mental health is better, we reach for the right foods. So you can actually reprogram your brain to be happier and healthier. And then comes empowerment. So after
Hmm.
you've learned who am I really, what makes me tick, I want to be authentic, I love myself, I'm energized, I've reprogrammed my brain. Now it's time for me to jump out of that plane and do that thing that scares me that I want to do. And that might be like, I want to go to a dating app, or I want to, like, take that exercise class that I feel a little intimidated about, or I want to take, that creative class or write that book or change my job. With empowerment, we're ready to like rock and roll and make some changes in our lives. And, it's hard because we've got this negativity bias. The brain isn't interested in us being enlightened and having fun and feeling fulfilled and following our passions. It wants to keep us small and safe. And so we need to learn how to do those things that scare us, because that's really, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Whether that is, leaving, for me, it was like leaving a relationship that wasn't working, finding a new relationship, changing, I'm always changing my work, doing new things, but that's really where fulfillment comes. So empowering yourself, and the self-compassion comes in because self-compassion is really a parachute and a life vest. So it's a life vest. So when you get a health crisis, when you do, make a mistake, you've got this life vest on so you can float, but it's also a parachute. So when you decide, you know what, I'm going to go for that thing that my soul is saying, you're running out of time, woman, go and make it happen. Yes. You can, if you fail, so what? Failure is just a stepping stone on the road to success. So that's empowerment. Then we get to rehab your relationships, because what happens is you become that butterfly, right? So you're flying, you're colorful, you're having fun, you feel great. But the people in your life, they're like, no, you're still the caterpillar. Because we see things as we are, not as they are. So what they try to do is they try to pull you back in their reality, and that can really keep you stuck. So you have to learn techniques to help you rehab your relationships. You might have to cut some people loose. And that was my situation when I got divorced and really came out as myself, became that butterfly. I lost some friends. But I made lots of new friends who really get me for me. So really learning things like nonviolent communication, so you're getting your needs met, creating boundaries. And, I also have my people learn to say no. Saying no is saying yes to yourself. So rehabbing your relationships, and then finally enlightening yourself, which is, finding spiritual practices that work for you and realizing you're the only person that can save you. So often we look outside of ourselves for happiness, but you've got to look within. When you start to change your vibration and you start to resonate at a higher tone, you start to manifest and attract those things that are in your highest good. And also you're just, again, you're on your path, and you start to also see, I'm a soul having a human experience. And I think that's the big pivot with enlightening yourself. So those are the steps in a nutshell, but you can read more in my book, Rock Your Midlife.
Oh, I swear, it's like seriously looking into a mirror, Ellen. Like you and I have very similar values. I love that, and I am sure everyone who's read your book loves that as well.
Thank you.
I want to read the book. It's now on my list. It's gonna be next to my bedside table very, very soon. On the pile, right? That big pile of books on the bedside table. You mentioned earlier that when midlife women started coming to you when you were a registered dietitian, working with them, you noticed that they hadn't been taking care of their bodies. And then with midlife, it sort of caught up with them. It's so interesting that you say that, because when I got to that point in my life, I thought I was taking care of myself. I was doing all the things that our culture tells us to do. And it's those couple of steps, particularly your first couple of steps, that were missing for me. And that I realized that the rules had changed, and I could no longer move through life without the self-compassion piece. And I could no longer push myself. That's what changed for me in midlife. So those, as soon as you started talking about your steps, I was like, oh my God, I got to read this book, because it completely makes sense to me. There was so much push for me prior to going through perimenopause, and it doesn't work for you. At least for me, it didn't work as I got older. And it was that self-compassion piece, and really kind of pulling back on the intensity, because I was successful. I was up there, and I was lonely, and I felt like crap, just like you said, right? So that really makes a lot of sense for me. Yeah, I'm gonna read that book.
Well, the good thing is that self-compassion is a muscle, and it's a practice. And so no matter if you're listening, no matter where you are at, and I was type A personality, fierce self-critic, go to the Ivy League school, get the PhD, all of the things. And if I
Totally.
could learn it, anybody can learn it. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's such a contrast to self-esteem. We learned like in the 80s, it was all about like self-esteem, raising your self-esteem. But self-esteem is evaluating yourself against yourself or somebody else. And we're always going to fall short. Like you have those moments where you think you look great and then you realize, oh my God, I've got like toilet paper on my shoe or something. And I've been like going through, or I've had these, interviews and I go like, oh my God, I've got like lipstick on my teeth. It's something about, your looks, and you realize like, oh, self-esteem, I'm always evaluating myself and it can go up and down. It's like riding a roller coaster to keep up, as you were saying, Chantal, of just like trying to keep up.
Mhm.
But with self-compassion, there's no keeping up. It just
Right.
is more and more about being there for yourself. You grow in your capacity to love yourself and be there for yourself. Where self-esteem is very wonky. And it's like being on a hamster wheel. I think we're taught that, right? That we have to always be better than.
Oh, very cultural, very much a
Yes.
message that we all get, especially as women, I think.
And we're also taught to be happy, right? We got to be a good mom. We like to remember that Anjali commercial. I don't know if you remember. I'll bring home the bacon and
Oh,
fry it
yeah.
up in a pan, and
I can
never
bring
let you
up the
forget you're a man.
bacon.
Like, yeah, right. Like all that stuff I'm supposed to do, like all of these things, and and during menopause, your brain literally changes. There's some great research that just came out that found that estrogen receptors actually increase in the brain as we go through menopause because the brain is so hungry for estrogen. We get more selfish and we just don't feel good, and we have to start taking care of ourselves or we're just going to sink.
Absolutely.
I think
And I think it is, yeah. And I think everything that you said, including, especially diet. I think diet is probably one of the most important things that people can look at in their midlife and adjust and change. And you talk about a whole foods, plant-based diet, and that has been proven to be one of the healthiest diets on the planet. Do you find with your clients that they accept it, adhere to it, or reject it? I have a lot of back and forth.
I don't think everybody's real with themselves. What I'll see is someone will tell me my diet's great. I don't eat the standard American diet, and I'll look at their Instagram and they're holding a Pepsi. So I think that there's a disconnect, and I think that there's a lot of shame. A lot of the people who come to me are really ashamed. Like maybe they were in good shape in their 20s and their 30s, and they had a kid, put on a little bit of weight, had a second kid, put some more weight on, hit menopause, put more weight on, and what they end up doing is they go on these cockamamie 6-week beach body, look fantastic. And I love my body, and I think I look great at 61, but what I do is not what everybody's going to do. And I love it. I mean, I grow my food. My man is a master gardener. I love to move my body, but it's not everybody's thing. And I think there's a disconnect both with how much work goes into having that body that we see on Instagram, and it's doable. And I think, some of us who are influencers, look that way, and that's the way that we live. But for the average person, it's really hard to do, and it can feel really overwhelming when they don't get those results and they focus in everything. And why do we focus so much on that stupid metric of weight? Like, I am just so,
Yes.
It's an outcome, but it's like the only metric. Everybody who comes to me is like, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight. It's like, no, let's just focus on being healthy. The weight will get to where it's supposed to be if you focus on it. But to answer your question, I think there's a disconnect. And the other issue is that we live in an obesogenic society culture.
Yes.
We have 6,000-7,000 calories for every man and woman, and those processed calories are diabolically designed to hijack your brain to want more and more of them. Can you eat one M&M or one potato chip? No. And so what ends up happening too is that your microbiome actually shifts when you eat a lot of junk food. Your microbiome is conditioned to want more junk food. When you start eating, probiotics, so sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, these foods that contain healthy microorganisms, and you're eating the foods to feed them, which are the plant foods, then your body starts to crave kale. I mean, my body feels good. It's not that I don't eat, like, it was my anniversary yesterday. We had a beautiful piece of chocolate that I brought on my trip home from Spain and totally enjoyed it. Chocolate is also, can be a functional food, right? But my body does not crave junk. My body craves healthy food. It feels good. So I think that it's we have to get away from this all or nothing. And I know that you totally are on board with the Supatra about this whole idea that these 4-6 week programs to transform are not where it's at. We need to be working forever
Mm-hmm.
on how am I changing my life forever. I would rather see
Yes.
somebody say, I'm going to eat an apple for a month instead of a candy bar for my 3 o'clock snack, or I'm going to give up soda and do that for a month and keep on building and building. So I think we're not realistic about what we're actually eating and doing. I think a lot of people, I think there's a lot of shame involved in it, and I think we're just focusing too much on that stupid metric of weight, and
Yes,
about also just
absolutely.
about how possible is to shift that, because I do believe my clients that it's not as easy to shift as the media and as some influencers lead people to believe. And
Absolutely.
we focus on exercise as a weight control method, and the research really
Mm-hmm.
shows as the body adapts, exercise is not a weight control method. It's great for weight maintenance, it's fantastic for your
Mhm.
physical and mental health,
Yep.
but it's not there to lose weight.
Yep.
Yes.
Definitely
Many,
maintenance.
many, yeah, and many people use it as a punishment for what they ate the night before, and that hurts my heart because like you said, if you really tune into yourself, if you're really mindful, your body tells you what it likes to eat. And when you listen to that and you give it what it likes to eat, it's happy. And when you move it like it wants to be moved, it is also happy. So I love the mindful aspect of your treatment plan for people. I think that the more in tune they are with themselves, the more they're going to realize a lot of these, basic tenets that you're giving them, but they have to feel it for themselves first.
Yeah, and your mental health improves. And as far as the menopausal symptoms, you alluded to, the whole food plant-based diet. These plant foods contain phytochemicals, plant chemicals,
Yeah.
some of which can actually mimic your estrogen that your body produces, and so
Yeah.
can make you feel better. I mean, there's a lot of research that show that people who go on whole food plant-based or even try, vegan, eat more soy, actually have fewer hot flashes, and they do much better in terms of going through menopause, and they do lose some
Me.
weight too. Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I just upped soy. I really focused on whole food plant based and, no hot flashes yet. I'm 51. I have lost weight because of that, and just naturally, I haven't changed any amount of what I've eaten. I'm a big eater, so I love eating, and it has really given me tons of energy, improved my sleep, you name it.
I was going to ask you, Dr. Ellen, how you incorporate all of these lovely things that you do, the psychology, the psychotherapy, and the dietitian, and the mindfulness, self-compassion. But I think we're getting a pretty good picture of how you meld all of those wonderful things together. Is there anything that you wanted to add to let our listeners know how you pull everything?
Well, everything works synergistically. And I think that, I'm not a psychotherapist. I don't know if you are, Supatra, but I am not a psychotherapist. I'm a coach. And so I think psychotherapy is fantastic. There's a place for it. But as a coach, my training is really seeing you as whole and having the answers. And so
Mm-hmm.
my job is to help you to visualize and really get a picture of, what do you want your life to be like? What do you want your health to be like? What do you want your mental health, your physical health? What do you want your relationships to look like? What do you want your work to look like? What's the best possible self that you can imagine? And
Mm-hmm.
using all kinds of tools and figuring out, how do you get from where you are now to where do you want to be as quickly as possible, with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
compassion on my part, but also motivation and accountability, and really being, it's coaching is like a dance, letting my client lead. And I would say one other technique that I've recently added to my quiver is heart math. I don't know if you're familiar with heart math, but it's
Mm-mm.
really amazing, very easy techniques that allow you to create resilience, which is your capacity to have more energy by what we do is we shift your emotions on a grid. So imagine, if you will, on the left are all of your difficult emotions. I don't believe in negative or positive emotions. I believe in challenging emotions. They
Mm-hmm.
all have a use in our lives. So your challenging emotions, your fear, your anxiety, your depression, grief, sadness, anger. And with heart math, what you do is, through these very easy techniques that you can learn, you create what's called heart coherence. And so your brain, your heart, and your emotions all come together. And your heart rate variability, you get a very smooth kind of curve instead of being kind of overwhelmed and frenetic. That way we feel really stressed out, where you just feel like all over the map. I think we feel that a lot at midlife and when we're going through menopause.
Yes.
Get much smoother. Simply just breathing, locating your heart, breathing into the area of your chest, creating a little slower and deeper than normal, and then just thinking about someone or something that raises your emotions, so that brings compassion, love, peace. Just by doing that, even for just like 20-30 seconds, could shift your vibration. So that's one technique that I've really started to use, and with great results. It helps people tap into their intuition. It's a great technique that people can do along with self-compassion, micro doses throughout the day, to keep your energy balanced instead of being all over the map.
I love it. I love it.
What I love about that technique is this body up, brain down combining, right? So the breathing piece is that body up, and then you're thinking about somebody who helps you raise your vibration, your frequency, and that's that brain down. So I love the combo there.
And I love that you mentioned, body up, because 80% is body up. Your heart is like, your heart develops before your brain for a reason, right? Your heart is so in tuned with everything that's going on. And we haven't talked that much about the gut and the microbiome, but 80% is going from your gut to your brain. Only 20 is your brain to your gut. So managing your gut, connecting with your heart is going to give you much better physical and mental health, and give you, I think this sense of control that, I can't exactly control my thoughts, but I can control that place between my thought and the emotion, and what emotions do I want to be vibrating with in my life. And again, from that law of attraction perspective, we bring a little woo into it in quantum physics. When you are vibrating at a higher rate, you just attract, and you literally see those things that are going to be good for your life.
Oh, I love it. Well, you are absolutely high vibe, Dr. Ellen, and it is so wonderful to just sit here in front of you and absorb everything, and just to get a good picture about what you do with people and how you help them heal. We are out of time for this half, though, so Chantal.
We are excited to talk to you again for the next episode. Really excited to hear more. Thank you all for joining us. Tune in next week for the second half of this wonderful interview with Midlife Whisperer, Dr. Ellen Albertson.
Thanks for tuning into the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. Please remember, the content shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the ANEW Body Insight Podcast tab. Follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.